Hey guys, it's David. Welcome, all my wonderful artist friends. Hey, we're going to do some fun things today. I learned so much at Pace last week, and we had so much fun there. And I was really looking forward to coming back. And there's a number here, number 31. You're probably wondering what that number is. That is my number for next weekend's competition that I'm going to be in, and that hopefully you'll remember to vote for. And so I'll be talking about that a lot in the next coming days and weeks. Next week especially. It's up in Wauwatosa, and I'm in this competition. It's all actually, it's kind of sad because it's not about the ability as an artist, but it's more about the social media and getting people to vote. Anyways, but let's go to our painting today. And actually, let's first start out with our beer. I've got a really interesting beer, a 903 Pina Colada Cupcake, a goose ale. I'm not sure what that means, but let's try it. This is something very different. Uh-oh, must have shaken it a little bit. I got out here, so let's pour it into a mug, a beer stein today. A beer stein. So cheers, everybody. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Let's see what this tastes like. Like a cupcake, pina colada cupcake. Oh my God, that's very sweet and kind of weird. Kind of weird. I'm not going to totally recommend this one. I think I'm going to give this one about a 7. No, that's kind of weird. That's like, it's not like it's like a beer, but like a cupcake. So cheers, everybody. Cheers. I'm giving that a 7 paintbrush. Unfortunately, it's not that great. Though it's maybe if I put ice in it, that would be better. Anyways, let's get going to our, so when I was in Pace last week, I talking to a lot of students, and one of the things I was seeing that a lot of students were doing was they were not pre-planning their painting. They just go out there and they don't even do a value study so that's first off. Let's go to our website and just show you all this stuff. For anybody that's new here, this is where you get all my information on my website at BeckerArt.net or davidartbecker.com. Either one. Go here and you'll find out if I've got classes going on, what we're going to be painting, what I did on Sunday, sign up for my newsletter for Tuesday. So it's all there in my front newsletter for all the new people that are here that I hopefully talked into watching on Thursdays. And hey, Tina and Monica. And my supplies are here. I use Holbein paints, and definitely the best paints out there. And BeckerArt brushes, and Stonehenge Aqua paper. And then we have, let's go right to our value study. And this is what I want to talk to you about, because when I came back, I decided to make it kind of hard for you guys, because I want you to start looking at your photos and really analyzing them and trying to make them better than they are. We're not copy machines. We don't just copy the photograph unless the photograph is really great. But this shot I took on the Biltmore Estate in North Carolina, and this was their wisteria little garden walkway arbor or whatever they call that is over it. And I took this one right here. The shot I took was this one. And usually I take a wide shot, and actually I took a lot of shots, but this is the one I want to show you guys. I took this shot and I gave this one I gave to you. So I gave this one to you on the website, and I don't think I wanted you to use it that way, because I just think there's a lot of space down here that's void of anything. This little vine here that's going up, I think that's got to get rid of. And actually, that was even in the way when you're walking on this thing. But I guess they need to put that. But I would just tie that back if somehow they could tie that back. So I didn't put that in. And this afternoon, I did a vertical, and this evening I'm going to do a horizontal, just to show you the difference of what to do and how to make your picture better. You know, take your photograph, make it smaller, bigger on your phone if you're using your phone or your laptop. Take the picture in there, and in your photo editing program, just kind of look to see, and when I'm out there, you use a viewfinder. I'm going to be talking about the Fair Viewfinder that Steve Puttridge has just made. It's called a Fair Viewfinder. I called it something different the other day, but it's a Fair Viewfinder, and basically it's a viewfinder, and you go up and you look through it to look at your subject matter and how you want to compose it, and how you're going to draw the composition to the lights and dark pattern and all that kind of stuff. So you do that, you can do that, and I will kind of put that in Photopia. I'm going to probably do another thing about photopia.com, which is like a program. It's a website where you can use Photoshop, and you can manipulate your photo to where you want to, make it this way or that way, because here it's horizontal, this way it's vertical. You just crop it. And like I said, you can do that on your phone too by just even looking at it like that way. And wow, Marianne from Norway, welcome. Marcia, Sue, and Sue. Oh, thanks for coming. And so this is what I came up with. I went horizontal, and I'm going to put two people in there. And I just drew this up with marker. I just put it really black onto the black and white photo, just to kind of, I want to have a lady here in a dress and a guy just walking hand in hand, walking that way. Now let me just show you what I did. And so look for the big lights and darks. And this is kind of neat because the lights are the ground and what's behind these people. And then all this green and the wisteria and the arbor and the bench back here in the wall, that's all my dark. And the shadows, that's all my dark. And it doesn't matter if it's middle tone, it's my dark. And that has to stay dark. Now this middle tone right here, I'll probably do as my light, because you got to go from the light to dark. And when you're outside painting plein air, you do the same thing. And you may not do it where you record it, but you, in your mind, you talk to yourself and you do a little thumbnail sketch and get this picture in your head that those parts have to stay dark and this part has to stay light. It's something I do automatically now. I don't even have to do a value study, because this is the first thing I think about when I'm walking around. I'm looking at the values or the color that represent the values, and I just go in there and I try to make a simple composition. Now here, there was no people walking down there, but way back in the distance, there was a lady with a sundress on. I was actually hoping that I would catch her right here, and I was going to take a picture of them. I did take a picture of them together because they were trying to take a picture of themselves. I said, "Hey, you want me to take a picture?" And he said, "Yeah," but I was thinking, boy, if I could just ever go in front with them and walking and position them. But I just did that automatically on my own then. Anyway, so let's go to our tabletop and show you what I did this afternoon. So this afternoon I did this, and I didn't come in close enough. I didn't draw it like I drew it like the first picture that I gave you, which I forgot that I wanted to bring it in a little bit farther. So I have all this, like, this is all, I kind of consider this negative space. It's like, it's too much light, so I have a little bit, I have half and half of lights and half and half of dark. So half is light, half is dark. Even though this is middle tone, but it's more half and half. And it's always better to do a little bit more in one direction, either more lights than darks or more darks than lights. It's never good to be even with things on your painting. So this one was not bad. It gave me an idea. I really don't like the color green. You know how I am about green anyways. But this time, what I'm going to do this evening is horizontal. I'm going to do it this way. And here I brought the people. They weren't up far enough. I thought, I could always crop this, like in this area. I could always crop it like that for the photo. Or for the painting, I can crop it like there. And I put a guy in the chair here, and it looks like this, looks like Bigfoot. I'm not sure what I did there. It's like Bigfoot sitting on the bench there, waiting for this couple here. And there's actually something else there, which is like a purple person. So that didn't work out so great. But I was just experimenting. I was trying to show them that you don't always have to take the picture to a T. It's not like, we're not copy people. We are not copy machines. We want to make the painting better than what it is. And so I took that little branch out, the vine that's going up there, because they're walking, they would walk right into it. And so I took that out, kind of whirled it around this way. And so I'm going to try to use a little bit different colors this time, and maybe richer darks. And I went up a little bit closer so that the people now, and I also drew the people a little bit better because they're closer. And so I really went in and looked for, on Google, I just Googled couple walking away. And so I found a picture and I just sketched them up like they were original, because I could make it up, but if I see something, it's always that much more easy. I did put a hat on her, because the lady in the back there, way in the distance, she did have a hat on, and she was wearing a yellow dress, a yellow sundress. So let's get going here. And I'm going to use gouache, like from now on, I think, and I really like this whole thing about gouache. It's, I never will have to use masking fluid ever again, because I can get back my whites just by, rubbing out a little bit and then just putting white on top of it. And I actually like that look when it comes to, and I actually did this here, if you look, I took the white with the green, light green, and I spattered it on there. So it would just be like leaf type of things, but with a spatter. And that's opaque, that's opaque watercolor. But I actually like that look. I find that look to be like a neat way of showing detail, and so that's up to you. You can make it pure transparent watercolor and not use gouache, but I'm going to start in my teachings to always bring gouache with, just because it's another way if you can do it. You don't have to, but you can. If you want to do it where you're keeping the parts light with masking fluid, that's fine too. It's all your own choice. So now we're going to go in and get our lights first, like we always do. And if you have questions, if you're new from Pace last week, just ask me questions and ask them right away, because I always have it up on my screen here and I can watch it. And I do take a sip once in a while and toast you guys, even with this 7 paintbrush beer, which is a cup here. Oh my God, it even smells weird. Yeah, that's not one I'm gonna buy again. That's if I'm gonna get something that sweet or that weird, I'm just gonna get a regular drink, like one of those, canned drinks that you use on the beach. Is it important to have the dark or light pathway to connect? Yeah, well, it's like the pathway and this outer edge here, and basically to the back is my lights. That's my only lights, and the wall back here. So the pathway is the light, and everything else, all this column, this except for this foliage over here, that's gonna be light. But this is all that part of the pattern, and this shadow is part of the dark. The people are part of the dark. Even though there's middle tone in there, you gotta separate the middle tones. Some middle tones can be into light, and some middle tones can be in the dark, and you need to make sure that they're slightly different from each other. So that you're always working for the big washes. And so I'm just going to wet everything here, and I'm working on a panel today, and I'm just going to wet everything, because I'm just going to go in there and get a nice light. I'm going to go warm to cool. I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to take like maybe an orange, a brilliant orange, maybe a little lavender. I really love these two colors together, lavender and orange. They give me kind of a beige gray, and so I'm just going to go in there and do a warm. This is a pathway, a little rocky pathway, and kind of make it beige, maybe a little bit of purple. And I like spattering into, because it just gives me a texture. I've found that I really like spattering a lot. It's one of those things. It gives me a nice texture that's uneven, and that I don't have to do much to. It's how I am. I don't like intricate details like that, especially in the beginning. I just want to get in there, get some nice values in there, some nice colors. And it's my lights, and so I'm just going to go. I don't have to worry about anything that's going to be dark, and I'm working my lights, so it's okay to go over everything. Don't be afraid, and then like stop here, and it's so hard to do it that way. And this way, it's more of kind of a watercolor technique to work wet into wet, right? And getting all those beautiful washes that watercolor gets by doing wet into a wet surface. And I just hit it. See, I'm hitting it against my hand, and I just, you can also hit it against the brush. You get smaller, and if you go downwards like this, then you get round circles. If you go across like this, then you get, it's like spets across. I'm gonna take a little leaf green, which I have in my gouache, which I'm gonna get in my palette one of these days, my regular watercolor palette. But if you use gouache thinly, it's just like transparent watercolor in the fact that you're working a wet and a wet, so it's going to be transparent. So gouache can also be used transparently. As a matter of fact, it covers up better, and you use less pigment because it's grounded. It's grounded finer. I think that's what you say it. It's grounded finer. And so I'm going to just get in here, get some of these nice. See, that's gouache, but I'm using it transparently by putting it into water and just letting it float. It's the same pigment that they use for the other thing. It's just an additive that's different, and they grind this more. They grind it down more so that it's finer, and it's just very concentrated, the gouache. Gouache used to be made opaque by whitening agents that they put into their paints. Holbein doesn't do that anymore. They don't put whitening agents in to make their paints more vibrant. which is cool because you get some really bright colors now. And that people in the past used to always hate the gouache because it was very pastel-like and all the colors were very like tempera paints. And so now they have it where they don't have it like that. Hi from Wisconsin. Received your brushes today. Just love them. Hey, Pat. Thanks. I'm glad they got to you. Sorry they were late. I was away and I just didn't have them to send you. Otherwise, I would have sent them. But thanks for purchasing them. I hope you love them. I love them. I mean, look at the point you get on these and the chisel you get on this one. This is a flat one. So as I ever on an island, look at the sharpness on that thing. So as I ever on an island, straight on an island, this is the brush I take with me, this flat one, because this is every brush. This is like a rigger. This is like a round brush, depending on how you turn it and how you use it. This is the brush I take with. So now I'm putting my lights in, my light greens. And I put a little blue in this green. And spatter a little bit into the wash too, because that makes it look more like some leaves. You know, it's textury. Leaves are not just a really, you know, flat surface. There's a lot of texture going on in there. So you can do that with a sponge. You can do it with whatever. And I'm just doing the lights right now. I'm not doing the dark parts of it. I'm just doing the lights. And since there would be a sky behind this, why not let's just put some blue behind here. You know, so that anything I'm missing, if I miss a spot, I'll have a little bit of blue. And actually that's kind of green because I had some green in there. But this is horizon blue. This is horizon blue, which is also has white in it, but it is not a gouache. It's just a watercolor that has white in it. And so people get that all confused. They think just because a color has white in it, it becomes gouache. It is more opaque, but it is not gouache. Gouache has a different additive to it than no watercolor does. But both of them, either one is watercolor. One's opaque and one is transparent, and so you don't have to separate them. I separate them in a palette because this palette is a airtight one so that they don't dry out, because you don't want these to dry out. Like the watercolors don't dry out, Holbein watercolors. They just always stay pliable, always. And you put a little bit of water and right away they come right back, so you don't have to do anything to that. But with the gouache, it's a good spritz and it stays forever too, but it's just keep it in an airtight container. All these containers and all the paints are on my website in my shop folder, where you can find out, and it has links to like Amazon or Blick or art stores, or wherever you can buy Cheap Joe's. Wherever I find it the best, that's where you can get it. And then I'm going here and get my lights. See, there's lights showing through here. Don't go around light to dark. That's why you do things light to dark, so you can go over things and not be that careful. Like if you're doing a hyper-realist painting where you have to get right to that line, then that's a different story. But we're not. I'm not doing it that way. I am doing a painting that is more impressionistic, and so I'm not going to sit there and go around things, because I know I'm going to go on top of that, making it lighter later, darker later. So I'm going light and then dark on top of that. And at times you can also get a dark right away too, if you feel like you want to put some dark in there right away. And so I have my green I mix with my quinacridone gold. And I did ask Holbein about the quinacridone gold, and they don't have a problem. They must have either had done switched it already or something, but they don't have any. They still have tons of quinacridone gold. So I'm not sure if they already switched their formula or something, or they just have enough of it, or they didn't find it to be a problem. Because I said, you know, what's this? What's going on with this quinacridone gold? Why is everybody saying that there is no more? And they said, well, we don't know about that, because we have plenty. Or they just didn't want to answer me. One or the other. So questions, let me know. And so here's a few little mediums that I put into the lights, you know, just so that I can, and again, spattering, I want to get some spattering. And if there's an area you don't want spattered, then just, you know, put towel there, put protection there so you don't get that in there. Going to get to it because there are some spots that are a little bit darker in the light area, and it looks like, you know, this is, and I forgot I was going to put some wisteria in there, some purple, so let's put that in right now too. I mean, I might as well. I mean, it wasn't blooming. I'm not sure if it was already done, so I'm just going to put some of the lavender Get some opera and lavender, kind of pinkish lilac. And just get that in there, hanging there, because that's always beautiful when you see that. And it's not there, but hey, you know it is. What kind of, if you're a painter who loves flowers and gardens like this, you would know those things, and that's because that's what you want to paint, things you know and love, right? So I've actually never painted this. There was one time in France where there was my workshop, and they had wisteria all over in France, and it was beautiful. But I actually never painted it. So this is kind of, I'm making it up as I go along here, guys. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to not be so always looking at the picture and thinking you have to do exactly what that picture shows. And when I was out there plein air painting, a lot of times you almost can't even do that with all the stuff that's out there. You make up your composition, work your lights and darks, and then just draw what you feel you need into the picture, and then follow your value study. Follow your value pattern, follow your thumbnail sketch, because that is your foundation for your painting to look good. If you don't have a good foundation, you know, it's your building's going to fall down, or your painting's going to fall apart if you do not have a good foundation for the lights and darks. And make it a simple light and dark pattern. It doesn't need to be an overly complicated pattern. It just needs to be, you know, simple. The simpler the better. I always say simpler the better. Now I'm putting my middle tone in, like my shadows on the wall over here. Remember my value study? Let me go back to that real quick. I'm going to show you. So here's my value study. So what is dark? Dark is right here. The people are dark. This wall is dark. All this is dark. So as long as everything in here is darker than my darkest light in the light area, I'm fine. So if you look back at my painting, let's go back to my painting, you'll see that I haven't even gotten dark yet. This is not my darks, these are my lights. So I'll be putting the darks on top of that. Because first you got to get in your lights. And so that's what I'm getting in there. And the people are dark, so I can go right over them. I don't need to worry about them. They are going to be darker. Hey, Sherry from Indiana. Do I do acrylics? I had done workshops in acrylic, and there's 4 different kinds of acrylic that I used, anywhere from fluid to ink to gouache acrylic to heavy-bodied acrylic. And I find that my teachings with gouache are the same as they were for my acrylics. So yes, I do use acrylic once in a while, but now I don't even have to anymore, because this gouache is identical to how I would do the acrylic. I use it thick like acrylic. It's not acrylic gouache now. This is watercolor gouache. There are 2 different types of gouache. There's acrylic gouache, just like there are, you know, watercolor and acrylic. There is also a acrylic gouache. And that is, what is gouache? Gouache is opaque. So the colors are very matte and very opaque. So when you're using acrylic gouache, you find that those colors really cover up things really, really well. Where the heavy-bodied stuff is very transparent, kind of, in acrylic. So here's a little shadow in here, and then I'll make this darker green in here. And see my wall now? I've got my wall all nice and textury. And again, always a little spatter, never hurt. Especially when it's leaves or texture on a wall or on a ground. The grass I don't have to do that for. The grass I can maybe make it a little bit darker here. And boy, I really been working wet, because this is all totally wet right now. So let's just go across here too. So see how you pretend like the people are not even there yet? They didn't walk up yet. You don't need to see them until later. And now this green over here in this wisteria kind of went away. So I'm going to put that back in a little bit thicker. And I can actually do that later too with when I go put in the opaque stuff. I can actually put that in there again later, lighter. Alright, so let me get this brighter green here. So I'm going to get some more. It's because the leaves over here are really bright. And so I'm going to put that more in with my lights. So basically I got my lights and medium tones almost all in. And then I have to go for my darks, right? And so my darks will be next. But first, this pillar right here is a tan color again. So let's take some of this jaune number 2. going to go in there with a warm, you know, kind of a warm color. Orange and violet are a good one to make like a kind of a, I mean, lavender and orange are good to make like a beige kind of color. That's kind of a fun color to make with lavender. And then the wall here can be a little bit, this bench later will be something. Now let's go a little bit dark. I like this dark green I made there. So ultramarine blue and quinacridone gold make a pretty decent greenish. Your greens should be a little bit orange-like. They're not like solid green. They always have a little bit of yellow and orange in them. It makes them look more rich and realistic, because they do have a lot of bit of grayness to them, the greens out there. We tend to make our greens that come out of the tube a little bit too vibrant and too unrealistic. I find they're very unrealistic a lot of times when I'm using them. I mean, I don't mind it, but I would rather never do green, but you know, it's green. The leaves are green, so what are you going to do? And the grass is green and all that stuff, so it's, you know, there's times when you have to do it. You just have to go in there and make them green. But don't make them bright green and kind of saccharine green. I'm not sure if you know, saccharine is kind of sweet and it's really almost too, it's really a tough green to look at. I mean, there's books about it, how artists really don't like painting with green. It's a hard color to paint with. But there's so much of it out there, so you do have to learn how to use it. So here is the shadowing, and so it's still wet, so I'm going to put a little bit more shadow. And the shadow, it's too soft because it's on a surface of texture, so I'm going to texture the surface, the shadow, and that, because again, it's textured. This is like pebbles on the ground, so I want to get a certain kind of texture. You can do that with sponges, plastic wrap, however you want to do the texture is up to you. You can tap it like this, and just take your brush and tap it down. You can spat it with water just to get a little texture. All right, so there's my middle tones and my lights. So now let's go to our darks. And what do darks do? Darks show and identify shapes. So that's step, that's part of end of step 2 and into step 3, which is dark details. So dark details is the first you go to big darks, and that would be the beams and stuff. So that's still part of step 2 because you're getting the big darks. And then step 3 is always the dark and light details, meaning details is just what it says. All the little stuff, all the little details. Oh, one thing I didn't do is these vines. I got to get some color in the vines. All right, ask questions, guys. That's why I'm here. Need to ask questions so I can answer them. And you can also do, let's say I want to do this painting big, and this one would be like a sketch of it. You can do that too. You can just go in and do a small 8x10, you know, a smaller version, and just do it like this size, you know, small version of it, a little sketch, a little color sketch of it, just so, and no details, just big areas of dark and light and color schemes that you want to use. Maybe you want to try a color out, and then you'll have something so when you do a big painting of that, you know what color to go for or what color works or what doesn't. You can rub in and out of that scene too if you feel like you need to. So now I'm putting in all these little vines. I'm putting them in kind of middle tone. And I know this a lot, like the people are not in the picture. And I did that purposefully. I did that on purpose, okay? So that you would start creating your own imagery, and so put it in there and just kind of go into like Google and find, and a couple of students did that today in class. We had one that she always put a whole picture together because she didn't really actually like this picture, and I was kind of glad that she didn't like the picture because then she made it better, right? And so sometimes you don't get a great picture on an area, but somehow you should, as an artist, make it better. And you can do that. You can figure it out and just get a better pattern, get a better color pattern or value pattern, better drawing than it is, better composition than it is. All right, now our darks. So darks, what are we going to do for our darks? We're going to get really dark because those beams are almost black. I'm not going to go quite that dark, but I'm going to go pretty dark. And I'm going to do one spot first to identify what my darkest dark is going to be. So I'm going to go in there very dark. I use a little bit of dark blue, a little bit of purple, a little bit of dark blue, Prussian blue, and probably a little bit of orange so that it comes into the browns. And then I go around and negative paint some of these. Actually, I don't have to negative paint because I'm just going to put it right over the top of it with opaque. That's actually going to be good. So I can just show you how you can go on top of that and throw the hysteria over top of that with opaques. We are so worried sometimes about negative painting because it's so hard. And but you know, sometimes you don't have to do it. If you feel like you can just do it later on with like opaques, you know, go ahead. And I have found it in this last week that it looks pretty darn cool. The picture I did of the inside of a farmer's market, I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but if you didn't, it's on my Facebook page and you can look. And that's half gouache and, well, more, not even half, it's about a quarter gouache and the rest is watercolor. But there's a lot of gouache in it because I wanted the person to look more with brushstrokes. I wanted to actually have that in there so you can actually see the brushwork. So some parts of this beam here, I'm going to dip into black. I'm going to go right into black, go into Prussian blue, and make it really, really dark. Because I want the contrast in certain spots. Like right here, I want it really dark. So you can use a dark color like black with a color in it. So now that's like a dark blue. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I encourage it because we don't even get enough darks in our scene a lot of times because most artists, beginners, don't use enough paint, and so they're not it's drying 10% lighter, and it never gets to the point where they have it actually correct. And now there's a bunch of things in here. It's all wet, and so it's bleeding in there. And I actually like that because I'm going to be putting foliage coming down on top of that too. How much time do I have? Okay, 7.5 hours. All right. I'm always trying to make sure I have enough time to finish. So this competition I'm doing coming up next on the 7th and 8th, it's 64 artists, and we compete against 2-on-2, you know, like a basketball round. And so there's one team, and I'm going against another artist, and then they vote. It's usually, I think it's going to be 5 to 6 is it's 1 hour to paint it, and then that's 5 to 6, and then they have to get it online, and then at, I think 6:30 or 7 they start for 45 minutes, and then people vote on it. And so just the general public and the people at this fest, in this fair, which is in Wisconsin, in Wauwatosa, and they have QR codes all around the grounds, and you go in line, but you cannot just vote for me. You have to vote for all 32 groups, and so you're going to have to vote for, you know, which I think would be kind of fun to sit there and look at 36 different, well, actually 64 different paintings, but each two, you got to vote for one of them. So they breaks it down to 32. And then the next day, it will be, the next day will be 32. And so you'll be looking at 32 paintings, but you'll be choosing 16 of them. And so you do have to choose all of them. You cannot just choose me, which is, I think, good. But it's still, it's more about, I think it's going to be more about how many people you can get online, which is, a couple of people asked that in the Zoom meeting yesterday, is that, you know, isn't there a judge there to judge the work itself? But not really. So it's, you guys are judging, the general public is judging it. And, but, you know, if I get all you guys, it's kind of not about the quality of the painting. It's about, you know, how many people can get to vote. I guess the city there wants to get a lot of people interested in Wauwatosa, which is a neighbor of Milwaukee. It's Milwaukee town right next to Milwaukee, like a suburb of, I think, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Look it up, Wauwatosa. And there's 3 rounds, and I will be putting all the information on there. I'm definitely gonna, and I may even do it where I'm gonna be doing it live. I may do the hour live just to show you guys what I'm doing. It's on a Friday, so Friday evening it starts, and then Saturday, 2 times on Saturday, if I make those rounds. And All right, so there's some, I'm getting my darks. See how my darks are going in now, and how all of a sudden I have this roof over them, and now the dark greens are not there yet. I'm going to put those in there, but at first I'm just getting the big areas of dark going in with the pretty dark too. It's kind of brownish, but I do have color in there. Some blues in there, some oranges, some reds in there, and it's just making it dark. These are my dark details and my large darks. They kind of go together on this one. And as it goes back, it gets lighter and lighter. I'm gonna find to make it lighter and lighter. These beams get, lighter as they go back, and then the post here. And maybe a little bit darker here. And again, I don't have to negative paint all these since I am gonna go back in with some opaques, and I'm just gonna go and let them be on top of the dark, to show some of the light leaves that are on top of the dark. And it looks kind of cool. I like that look. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's not really transparent watercolor. And yes, it is not transparent watercolor, but I like the look. And it's up to you, the artists themselves. You decide on what you like and what you don't like, and do whatever you like. If you don't want to use black, or if you don't want to use white, or don't want to use opaque, that's all good. It's not, each person is his own person, and you do what you want. The fundamentals, though, are still pretty much the closest same, that you want to get your big lights and darks. I mean, I try to teach fundamentals on how to get a good composition, big areas of light and dark, get your composition done before you start painting. And then I'll go in there. And now let's get our people in here right now, because they are big areas. And so before we start getting this is dry, and then get my other stuff in there. So I know there's no people in the picture, but there are. If you look really close, way in the back, there are a couple back there. Way in the distance. You're gonna have to get a magnifying glass for that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put them in with some color at first, but I'm gonna go dark later. So what was it? Naples Yellow and Opera was Don Andrews' flesh tone colors, and that's, I actually kind of like that. So I'm gonna go in there with the flesh tone color. I also put a little bit of a jaune number 2 in there, and so I'm just gonna go in here, get the flesh tone colors, and I may have to go over that because this is too light. I'm just putting the underneath part in first. Her arms and her back. She is a strapless dress, or a strap dress. Sundress, but you see her arms and his arms too. Art 64 is a wonderful weekend beer. Been there the last 2 years. We'll be anxious to see you. Hey Pat, that'd be fun. Yeah, I was selected. I guess they select from 300. There was 300 and some people that they selected 64 people from, and I was one of them, and so that was kind of exciting. And it looks, I love that show in England, where what they call that show in England, where they, like, artists are competing, but it's a little bit different because they have 3 judges. But this is basically 64 people and the world judges, because anybody can judge. Anybody, you have to sign up and you can judge it, and so it's being kind of fun. I was a little bit disappointed because I thought it'd be more about the actual artwork, but that's okay. It's still going to be fun. Here, darks, and she has a light hat on, but even that light hat, I first start out with the light color of the hat, and then I put a shadow on top of it, right? Like I do that with anything. I do the lights of that first. So first I put the light on the hat, and then I will put the shadow on top of that, because I need to know the color of the object first, and then I darken it so that the outer rim then will also be a little bit lighter. The rim lighting will be there, and then the inside will be darker. And you can do that while it's wet or while it's dry, depending on if you want a hard edge or soft edge. And so usually I take the same color that it is, but I'm going to take a little bit of lavender in here, go right down the middle here. Then I want them in my dark. They're in my dark area. So I'm just going to make her flesh tone a little bit darker. Her hair I'm going to make of orange, of course, because that's what I always put on all my ladies. Orange hair. Red. Okay, let's say red. But really it's orange. That's my second favorite color. But then, of course, lavender is my first favorite color. lavender, any kind of lavender. Let's put a little bit more purple down the center here of a dress. This side would be light. Light's coming this way, right? And so this side of her dress would be light. The back side over here would be dark. Same thing with her hair and actually her hat. This side would be dark with rim lighting. And yes, this is detail, and yes, it is more timely to do this. But, you know, this is center of interest, so you really want to get in there and make it look good. I'm going to give him Hysteria shirt. Wisteria, hysteria, a wisteria shirt, so a little bit of violet. So I'm gonna still put the flowers in there hanging, so this will match. It'll match, or maybe it's a white shirt that is shadowed lavender. Maybe a little bit dirtier, a little bit dirtier. It's still wet in the wet. I still am working wet in the wet, and I'll keep the edges white. And if I don't keep it white, I can always put it in there later too. Maybe a little bit darker, put a little blue in that. Get some of the folds in the shirt, soft edged. All right, you put that in there. He's got cuffs there, and then his pants, I'm gonna just give him dark pants. Just nice dark blue type of pants. Not maybe not blue jeans, but just dark pants. And this side will be light, and this side will be dark. And so this is about a middle tone. This is not a super dark right yet. This is can get a lot darker. And also, since she's next to him, I'm going to put a little bit of that color into her too, because it's just good to have colors interact with each other. And she's too much of the same color in here, and the back looks kind of weird. So let's make this darker. Make it opposite, like from what he is. Yes, it is always great to have the actual model there, like when you're painting. You know, having a model sit there. But you know, when you're out there plein air painting, that's not always a choice. I mean, you didn't hire anybody to stand there. So you either take a picture of them and then look at the photo when you're kind of working it, or like I've been an illustrator for so long that I can pretty much just make it up. And then you look once in a while, you look up if there's somebody like that, or if there's somebody sitting there, that's okay. But a lot of times I just make things up too, totally make them up. And that just comes with years and years of doing storyboards, which I don't expect many of you will be able to do that. But again, work from a drawing, work from a sketch that you do. That's why you do sketches. That's why you do thumbnail sketches, and that's why you do all kinds of sketches beforehand. Or even the whole painting can be a sketch before you do the real painting. You're practicing, right? You're just practicing with colors and everything that you want to put into the painting. That dress is really ugly. It's too almost the same color, so let's go in there and make it a little bit more orange, maybe. More. And the nice thing is, the papers I use, the Stonehenge, it wipes out so easily because it doesn't absorb into the paper as much as like an Arches. So I really love the fact that it does that. And since this is really bright orange now here, you also want to put it into him. Like a little bit on the side, you can put that in there because it's going to reflect. There's reflected light that happens like you wouldn't believe. And even like this green right there, take a little bit of that leaf green and put that into dress too, because it reflects. It could be a shiny kind of silky thing, and so it will reflect that color into her arm even. You know, and even if you don't see that in the picture, if you don't see it, it happens, and it works that way. All right, so there's my middle tones. Now my dark details. These are my dark, large areas. Now my dark details. And what is that? Just what it says. It's detail. Super fine details. I'm going to start up in the left and go to my right. And this tree, there's another board over here, another going there. And at the same time, I'm going to negative paint some of these these leaves in there. Ask me questions, guys. I love answering questions. I'm hoping that some of the people that I met at Pace last week that I told about this me doing the demonstration every Thursday. They join today, or maybe sign up for my newsletter. Get hopefully it'll help you out a little bit. I do this because I want to actually help you to paint better, and so it's fun watching people get better. And you can ask anything you want, and I will. If I don't answer it today, still want to be and you want to ask it away from the crowd, and don't want to put it in print, just ask me in an email, or ask me ask me in an email. I will answer. Maybe not right away, depending on what my schedule is like, but I try to answer it. Or if you want to show me your picture, just email me that picture. All my information is on my website, how to get a hold of me. See, I'm just negative painting these little leaves, the dark parts of them. And there's a lot going on in there. I mean, there's a lot of dark up here. And the thing is, you still want to have some things float. Not everything should be a hard-edged. And so I like to take a little bit of water then and just kind of soften some of these edges too, because you don't want everything hard-edged. And especially if I'm going to go in there later with a light, opaque light, then I actually want it to be dark, and I want it to be soft edged, so that when you put that in, that'll look really sharp and hard edged right there. And down on the bottom here, it goes to a dark leaf. And find yourself a brush too. These brushes are, look at the point on that brush. That brush is so sharp. But sometimes I'm looking for my old brushes that are rounded, because sometimes you can make better leaves with less rounded, or with less like sharp brushes, because I can't get a round dot with this brush, because a round brush is great. That's kind of worn, because then it'll make a nice, almost a circle when you're doing that. So don't ever throw away your brushes that you feel that I don't have a sharp point anymore, because there's times when you don't need the sharpness, you need the roundness of the brush. See, like this makes a really hard edge, but sometimes I would like to have some of the leaves be a little bit rounder. Today I am using a crescent panel. I didn't have another Stonehenge panel, so it's a crescent panel. What did I do there? I must have slipped into that or something. Yeah, it's a crescent panel. It's a crescent watercolor panel. And going here, and this is cold pressed, but it's almost like a hot press, because they make their paper. I'm not sure what kind of paper they use on this, but I like Stonehenge just as much, actually even more, but I don't have any of them available at the moment, because I used them up all at the expo. So I got to order some more and get back into using the Stonehenge. I really don't like working on paper by itself anymore, because when I'm done, I can just frame it right away. I don't have to ever wait anymore. I mean, just because it's standard size. This is 11 by 14. So I have a bunch of I ordered a bunch of standard size frames, and now I can just plop them right in there. I'm done. No more. First I have to wax it or varnish it, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And just do that, and then I'm ready. So this area is all in here. It's all really dark right here, right? And so I'm just going to get some leaves in there. Some parts are going to be soft, some are going to be hard. And I'm going to just go in there, wet it, and then just drop color in there. I like to add a bunch of little colors in there. And there's a lot of texture in here, right? And so don't be afraid of spattering once in a while. Or just taking other colors in there that you have around there. So you put a little bit of red in there. Bring that over to here. Again, go for the wisteria color, which is like lavender. Throw that in there, here and there. I can also, if I feel that I want to put it on top of something, like this is opaque. This is pretty opaque what I'm doing right now. See, I'm putting it on top of the dark, but I like that look. I gotta tell you, I really like that look. I, I feel like I'm doing both acrylic and watercolor at the same time, or like an oil, because it has that oil painting look where it's thick. Now I don't want to do it too much with the watercolor. I want to wait for my gouache really for doing that. Let's get a little bit of detail in these vines here now, and so I want to get a really nice dark. It's like this imidazolone brown is like a purple brown, and that I can go in there and get some really darks and underneath the crevices and inside the little way in there. And even though I'm just going to use that one color, I always try to dip into something else, not just that one color. Back after dinner. Oh, it's green. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is very green. Yes, it is. Yep, there's times when you have to use green. If you're going to do a big green, you know, summertime when you're out there, it's a lot of green in there. So you got to learn how to do it. How much time do I have left? No, not that much. So I better hurry up here. Get my darks in here. So this is my shadowing of the vines going up, and put some nice dark shadows on there to really identify what they're doing, shape of these vines. And then this bench right here, let's get this bench in here real quick. There's a bench right behind here, so you can put that right there. Now this green over here, because this was all dark, right? Remember this shadowing was here? So that's way too light, because again, I have to picture what it was that my value pattern was. Try never to get away from that. You don't want to get away from that. You want that to be your most important thing, is that you get that look of lights and darks. And again, it doesn't have to be black and white, but anything in the light area has to be any darks in the light have to be lighter than the darkest, or the lightest dark in the dark area. Did I say that again? Yeah, I think I should. So this dark right here, these darks, that can't be as light as the darkest light area. I have to make it just slightly darker than the darkest light, because this was considered my dark area, and that was part of the pattern, and so I have to put that in there. And when you design your painting, that is why you're designing your painting, because you know then if I follow that, no matter what I do in here, it's going to turn out. The painting will turn out because you are following that pattern that you started with, that looks so good in your value study, because it's simple. And keep it simple, because then it's not that hard to paint, because you just have, I know this is dark, and this is probably even a little bit darker in some of these spots, but I can always make things darker. It's hard to make it a little bit lighter, though with gouache I can go back in with lights. But this wall was nice and dark, and so I can, while I'm getting the darks, I'm also putting in the crevices of the bricks, the grout lines of the bricks and stuff, and then there's a shadow of that on the wall, right, of this bench. That can be in a shadow here, and I can negative paint the foliage in front, make some of these bricks darker. And then these are going across the wall here. And then I'm going to make the shadows a little bit darker too, because they're tending up being a little bit light here. So let's make them a little bit darker. And I can make them dappled by kind of just hitting my brush on there and not making it so wet in the web, just going in there. Put a little bit of warmth in there. A little bit of warmth, that would never hurt. Same thing with them, a little bit darker. Right where it starts, the shadow starts right here, goes this way. Now the shadow on the green will be really dark too. So I'll make a really dark green here. So maybe this is a plant of some type. And this is also shadowed a little bit. And so let's get a little bit of the edge right here of light. Again, remember, this is my dark. It's my dark. I gotta make it dark. Oh, you can add some vine, I forgot, little vine branches and stuff throughout here. And now you see also that they are way too light, right? I mean, now you can really see it. But remember I said I'm just using that as my light color for them. Now watch what I do. You're going to be like, oh my God, what is he doing? He's going to ruin it. I may. We'll see. Hopefully not. So let's go in there now and get our dark part of the people. Because they are silhouetted, kind of because it's really light back there. So I'm going to put a really nice dark there. Kind of make it transparent. I do want to do it transparently. Let's go a little bit dark on his face. His hair is going to be black later. I'm going to put that really dark. And I was using purple for his shirt, so let's go with a really nice dark. I know you're going, what is he doing? He's going to totally wreck it now. No, it's going to be perfect because now I'll have the right values. I mean, the side doesn't have to be as dark, but this side has to be really dark and almost silhouetted. And you can still have color in there. There can be color, like reflecting from her in there, from her bright dress in there, but it has to be dark. It has to be indicated that that's dark. My darkest dark, my lightest light is in my center of interest, and that the people are. And here she has a band across her head, across her hat. Her hat is too big. That's the problem. See, I made the hat too big. Oh well, we'll just make it really dark right on top here. Even though it's a light hat, still you can make the reflections or the shadows really nice and dark. And I'm going to use some white to identify that so it's not quite as... And then her hair, a little bit darker on the right side. And I can blend it right into her top here so that you almost can't tell the difference between the side here and her hair. I should have done him first all the way though. Let's just get back to him. And the arm's gonna be nice and dark on one side. You have to follow your value study. I'm using both gouache and watercolor at this point. I dip into, this is my gouache, and when I'm dipping into there, I'm trying to get a color that's going to be really opaque. I don't have to dip into it yet because I'm not going thick. I can also use dark colors here and make them thicker, but and they'll be opaque. Excuse me. But when I want it to cover something, that's when I'll be using the gouache, and that's after I get all my watercolor out of my system and first here. So see how dark it is now? I'm getting contrast. It's looking like something. Let me make this a little bit darker. Same thing with her dress. It's got to be dark. I know it's so hard because I know you guys always think, oh man, I just made it too dark because it's like black now. But that's sometimes the way it is. If you look and you look at some of your pictures, look at them, or when you're out there looking at stuff, man, it's really, really dark sometimes. And it's kind of almost void of color because it is so dark. And that's okay because then you get contrast and now it looks like they're part of the scene. Otherwise it looks like they're glowing and everything is light, and then if everything's light then you don't get that pattern. I know I keep on talking about the pattern, but I can't tell you how important that is. It's so important. I used to never think that way when I was in school, and you just paint the picture and you paint it the way you see it. And you think you see the way you think you see it, and you could be doing that, but you're not being an artist. You're trying to be an artist and not a photographer. You're trying to make it look like a great painting. And the composition is really important as a painter to get that composition working. Now her legs are gonna be really dark because it's in shadow, right? This is in shadow, and the edges right here is light. Bottom of her foot is really dark, and use black on the bottom of her foot. And now suddenly it looks more like they're in place. And now I can go even darker with the shadowing right where it's starting. And then just take my other brush and just bring that over across. Because it starts out dark and gets lighter as it goes away. And then I can even make it dappled, more dappled like. And actually she can even have like a shadow of him on her. I'm making this all up. See, now if you have a picture, you could just you know, look at it and trace from that or copy from that the scene. But if he's right there, there'd be a shadow on her, right? And so it just, you have to think like what's happening with the form. And that's all the years of life drawing I had and all the, you know, memorizing things when you're drawing them. And so that's all how I learned all that stuff. What do I have to do next? What time is it? Oh, it's 7:30. Oh, that's done. Let me just do a few more things. Sorry, I was running on here. So yeah, that's pretty much it right there, guys. I was going to show you with the opaques. I'm going to have to show you this because I said I was going to. So when you're using the opaques now, when you're using the gouache, I use it thick. And so here I'm going to use the leaf green. I can put a little white in the leaf green. And watch when I make my leaves here where I want it to really bright. It'll come out really bright there. I can make a light green. And so I'm just going to make that stick out like a sore thumb because I want this to really come forward. And I'm putting it right on top of the dark. See how it just comes forward then? I mean, it really, and especially if it was really dark right here, like let's say just a couple of hits of really light area. And I mean, I could have used masking fluid and taken it off, but look at how neat that looks. It really pops forward and it really makes it look like something. Here you can make little plants come forward. On her hat I can use white on her hat and I can maybe have a hit, and on the shoulder I can have a hit of white, just that, you know, like it's hitting the side of them and a little bit of light is just hitting parts of them. I should use my round brush, but that's okay. So you can go in here and just get those little dots and stuff, and so that's where I bring in the gouache. And you can do this in large areas too. It doesn't have to be just small areas. You can go into large areas and get it that way too. Does Holbein have corresponding colors in gouache? Yeah, they do, but not all of them. And like they don't have lavender. So like lavender here, I'll just use that thick as a watercolor. And that's okay to use like this. So I'm using the lavender kind of thick like gouache. And it's okay. I mean, it's fine to do that. As long as it's not super thick. It's not made, watercolor is not made to be used like oils, but gouache is. Gouache you can use a little bit thicker than watercolor. You can layer it up a little bit more. Let's get a little bit more of this in here. Sorry I'm running over. It's by 3 minutes. That's okay. I'm almost going to be done. Does Holbein like the... Let me read if any last questions. Like the brick wall, but you use more dark colors there. Yeah, I can also use dark color gouache too to cover up an area too. So like on here where I wanted maybe a little bit darker shadowing across the wall, and even the grout lines, I can go in there with a little bit thicker. I can use it thick against the wall too to make it like little texture white. You know, it's the rules need to be broken once in a while, and it's okay to break the rules of using gouache and using white in your picture, because it's not a bad thing to use gouache in your work. There's a couple of watercolor societies where we want it's transparent. So yes, there you don't want to use opaque colors because they're a transparent watercolor society. And the very last thing I'm going to do is, this is not textured enough. And so I'm just going to go in there and texture the heck out of the front, and then I'm done. Now we'll be 5 minutes over. I'm just going to tap it down here, get some texture in there. I know I got it on them, but that's okay. We can just wipe that off a little bit. And I also love spattering a little bit of the light green in for sparkle and in some of the leaves. I'm just tapping down, get little dots of leaves, because that's what happens. It's like really, these little leaves are in there, and they're just sparkle. Everything sparkles a little bit. So again, don't be afraid of using gouache. If you don't have gouache and you feel like it's, then don't worry about it. You can just use one of the watercolor like I used the lavender. You can use that a little bit thicker. You don't want to use it too thick, but you can use it thicker over the top of like I did right here. It'll still cover, and it still has a little bit of white in it. Here, I'll do it again over here a little bit, just a little bit of hysteria here. Here, I probably should put little flowers in here, right? A couple of red flowers. But now I gotta put red on our dress because if you have red in one area, you gotta put it somewhere else. So I should have put more orange there. Let's put a little bit of orange there, and then, ooh, right into my white. What the heck did I do? So see these little dots are opaque, right? Because that's where I'm using my gouache. And this green is not dark enough. 1 second. Oh my gosh, how far I'm over? Oh, it's 35. So 5 minutes over, we're good. One more thing. Just gonna make this a little bit darker over here. And grasses. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna stop. So there you have the couple walking down the Hysteria Lane, and she's dark. It was gonna be, the hat was gonna be light against the dark because that's what I had in the thing. But there you have it, guys. And this is what I did this afternoon, which as you can tell is a little bit not as contrasty, right? So it shows you the difference between using more contrast, vertical, and they're too far back, and got Sasquatch back there, Bigfoot, and his ghostly friend right there. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. And any more questions, just put them into the notes, and I will go there. Yeah, usually the gouache or the gouache makes the highlights, always makes it much better, and it gives you that detailed look. All right, and so until next week. And I'm not sure if I'm going to finish this cupcake beer because it didn't taste that great. 7, boy, that's a low score. So I'll see you on Sunday. If you're around on Sunday morning, you can watch my thing at 9 o'clock usually. I'm on Sunday. And usually I'm going to try to be outside. If I'm not, if it's raining or something, I'll be inside in the studio. And I never know what I'm painting until I get there. All right? So until next time, we'll see you guys. Bye-bye.